What's up, y'all? Shout out the new merch, man. It's here, it's here, it's here. Go ahead and go to thatman.store. That's thatman.store. You can get the hand down, man down merchandise right now. Go ahead and click that, man. We appreciate y'all.
That's cool.
Welcome to another episode of the Mark Jackson Show. I'm Mark Jackson. That's the dynamic one, my guy Bluu. Going to Come and Talk to Me Network. We got a very, very special guest, an absolute legend in the game of basketball. But first, let's pay some bills, Bluu.
I got you, Pops. I got you. Shouts out to Underdog. Y'all go ahead and click the link in the description and use the promo code MARK. You'll get a special pick and they'll match up to $1,000. Once again, that is the promo code MARK, M-A-R-K. Also, I got a vlog that came out this last week. Go ahead and check out my channel. Check it out. Got some footage of me and my son going out. Next week, I get some more footage to y'all. So that'll be down in the description too. Pops, it's a big day though, man. Back to you.
Jersey City's own two-time national champ, UConn Huskies' own Coach Danny Hurley, told the world, you better get us now a few years ago, and was absolutely right. Comes from basketball royalty, a legendary family where his dad won 28 titles as the head coach at St. Anthony's in Jersey City. He's a Hall of Fame. His brother is one of the legendary college players of all time and a head coach at Arizona State. And he has held his own and is a future Hall of Famer and a class act. My guy, the legend, Coach Danny Hurley. Thanks for joining us, man. How you doing, man?
Let's go, man. I just got off the court, so you're going to get a real version. You get a real version of me right now. I've had no time to calm down. So it's like
you said you was on a heater today in practice. That's the Coach Hurley I saw when I was visiting.
Yeah, I mean that's what I learned from senior, and I mean it's a blessing, Mark, to be able to coach here and to just to have the type of guys that'll the type of players, the type of like athletes that'll let me still coach them. As I think in general, I think coaching has gotten a lot softer. I think there's a lot less accountability. I think a lot less focuses on winning and being strong and being tough and competing. And so I feel like we got like a responsibility to do basketball in an honorable way here with how hard we push, and how we're about the right things.
You have an absolute gift. I witnessed you up close and obviously watch you from afar coaching your team. You have that ability to be hard on them as far as tough and no compromising, but at the same time love them unconditionally. Talk about where'd you acquire that unique talent and gift from?
Just really, Mark, just watching my dad and my dad was so ahead of his time as a coach. He was a master of, or he was pushing to master as many of the different art of coaching, the different elements, whether it was the tactics or the skill development or the ability to motivate and understanding human psychology. And he just was ahead of his time in so many different ways. And he always just pushed his players and the people around him to just be at a better level every day. So there was just this organic improvement that always surrounded my father, whether it was the coaches or the players around him, because he just created this atmosphere that was a little bit intense. People kind of always felt on edge because he was never really happy with where anyone was at or where the team was at. He was always pushing to get everyone towards a higher level. And if you do that for people, they're going to succeed. They're going to perform at a high level. We're going to win. They're going to get opportunities. And, I think the one thing that you see about our program is like it's a relentless atmosphere, whether it's June 10th or the middle of October. I'm pushing everyone in this organization to keep getting better and to keep adding value to themselves and obviously for us to win, keep winning championships. We're at the top of the mountain, and I do not want us getting knocked off it because I like it.
One more thing for me before I let Bluu jump in. My college coach, legendary Hall of Famer, Coach Connor Second, 99 years old. and I get chills and goosebumps when I still can pick up the phone and call them and talk to them. That's what a relationship between a player and coach is supposed to be like. Talk about your relationships with guys that have moved on, whether it's in the league or in the business world, and how proud you are of that.
Yeah, it's how a great teacher or a great coach, it changes your life. I mean, right. I mean, it opens up possibilities and success and opportunities. And, my life is the power of that with my father. And for me, PJ in college, PJ Carlissimo, back then, the coaches were, I mean, they were, they were men that, that held you accountable and toughened you up and prepared you for life. And, for me, I'm proud of, the impact I was able to have, not just as a college coach, but my 9 years in high school, at St. Benedict's in Newark, and just coaching players in that age range between, 14 years old and 21 for the last 20 years of my life has been like incredibly fulfilling because of the impact you can have and what that means for them. If you teach them what it takes to be successful, the habits, the mindset, the behaviors, because my dad and great coaches did that for me, just like Coach Carnesecca did it for you. Coaches matter. Coaches matter. Coaches matter a lot. And I think the worst organizations have weak coaches. I think strong coaches, they set they set the bar for the organization. They set the pace and a tempo and a standard, and that's the responsibility of coaching.
Now, Coach, I know we talked a little bit about your love for the game, your love for your players, and going into even pouring in from high school players, different age ranges. Is it more meaningful seeing your players go from college to the NBA, or are there other moments that are even just as special?
Yeah, that's a good one, man. That's like it's like a player that was like a no-star recruit that was a kind of throw-in recruit that you develop into a fifth starter or a ninth man, or a kid that didn't come in with the best foundation academically and ends up graduating with honors. I think those battles that are won and those lives that improve. I think what's addictive about coaching is just kind of getting the best out of people. Like when you feel like you're a difference maker with people and you could get them to places that to be successful, be the best version of themselves, contribute to team. The feeling of a man contributing to a team that is successful. It's a pretty awesome feeling. It's a tribal stuff, man. That's special.
9 years of coaching high school basketball. That's. I mean, I'm sure it's easier to pay the bills today than it was back then.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was driving my wife's college car, man, and I was driving around Newark, New Jersey, looking like a sucker, man. I was driving my wife's RAV4 with a pink and turquoise tire in the back, and looked like definitely a straight sucker, man. So, I was a sideline butcher too, man. I was butchering games that as a first-time head coach. It was a great place, Mark, for me to kind of start as a head coach and a leader, because I obviously made a lot of mistakes as a first-time head coach, a young first-time head coach in my early 30s. It was just a great place to learn on the job, develop my own coaching voice, experiment with with a lot of different things without the pressure of being like a college or NBA coach.
But you did become, in 9 years, you became an OG in high school. And I saw an interview where you talked about something that really, I had the same mentality. You said coaches in college would come in and try to recruit your players, and you'd be sitting there selling your players to them, but at the same time, in the back of your mind saying, I'm a better coach than this dude. I mean, I'd interview guys as far as playoff games or regular season games, and I humbly submit I'm sitting there thinking I'm a better coach. That's not a strange feeling. You made me feel good when you said that. It wasn't just me.
I mean, it's like you meet them, you as a high school coach, you're going to a lot of college practices, or you're watching a lot of coaches at clinics, and then like the coaches that you had, the coaches that I had, the intellect, understanding of the game, and then the players get recruited to those schools, and then your players are telling you what's going on in those programs on a daily basis, and it just wasn't at the level that we were doing it at high school, and I mean, I was just. I was just waiting for my opportunity, and I knew I knew that if I ever got into it, just the way that we would go about the culture, the day to day, just the way we would coach them, and it would look different, it would be different, and it would be highly successful.
I see a similarity in Jeff Van Gundy, who you know and I worked with. His brother is a coach and was a coach. His dad was a coach. And he said when he started coaching, he was so ready and prepared. And he said one day his dad came to the first practice he witnessed his son, Jeff, coach. And Jeff said the practice was sharp, on point, got after drills, defensively intensity. After practice, he walks up to his dad and his dad goes, "That's the worst practice I've ever seen in my life." Talk about the standard that your dad sets, similar to the standard that Jeff Van Gundy and Stan Van Gundy's dad did.
Yeah, man. And so I remember one game at Wagner. It was like year one, and it was me and Bob, and so it was Hurley brothers. So obviously our sideline antics, man, were like uncontrollable. I mean, we're two complete maniacs over there. So and like we're like like my dad was like rarely played zone. It's like we're gonna stop you with our man defense, right? We're gonna stop you with our man defense. And me and Bob, it's like we have the same mentality. And then we played St. Peter's College at home at Wagner. We're up 2 with like 12 seconds to go, and me and Bob decided at a timeout, let's go 2-3 zone. And so they hit a 3 against the zone to beat us at the horn. And my dad called Bob on the way home and told him, "You guys are idiots, man. You guys are horrible. Like, what type of coaches are you? So that was really the only time where he has kind of called up and attacked either a game plan or a strategy. But there's just a thing, man, that's like there was a work ethic that was instilled, I think, because like my dad, he never stopped thinking about St. Anthony basketball. He never stopped thinking about his players at St. Anthony. He never, and then any other time he put into his family. Like he didn't play golf. He didn't have hobbies. He didn't fix around the house. You know what I mean? Like it was like, and I think that's for me in my mindset. I just obsess over, and what my dad, I think, and the Van Gundys and different people that grow up in that environment is like, you learn to obsess over your team nonstop. You can't stop thinking about it. You learn to just obsess over your players and their development and their improvement and where they're at. And then the only other time I give that to my wife. It's obsessive, and that's why it takes not everyone can be successful at UConn, coaches that work with me or players, and I don't run from that reality.
Coach, it sounds like we had the same dad, because my pops never fixed anything around the house either.
Shots fired.
You can't hang a picture, right?
No, but all jokes aside, you talk about, of course, your father, legendary coach, and you talk about how he holds everybody accountable. I know growing up, you probably already had the pressure of living up to the idea of him. What was that like?
I mean, it was grueling. It was demanding. Demanding, and sometimes it was unbearable. Like when you're a kid and you grow up in a neighborhood, and and it's I don't know, it's Saturday morning at 9:30, and you and your brother are dribbling down to the Country Village courts to do a 2-hour workout that your dad drew up and your mother's going to put you through while you're walking past your buddy's house, and he's in there watching cartoons in the air conditioning. And then like maybe, all right, your dad gets home from work and it's like, let's run to Bayonne Park. and back. And
Mm.
Bayonne Park is like 3 miles away, and you're 7 or 8 years old. You know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
not built for distance running,
Yeah.
especially street running. So, I like, but that's so you're developing a work ethic that is different than the people around you growing up, and it's a different existence. And I think there's times that you maybe resent that. For me, I resented it big time when I got to Seton Hall, and I wasn't playing well. My brother's at Duke. He's setting it on fire. He's a lottery pick. He's winning national championships back to back. And I'm at Seton Hall, and it's like I'm playing real bad, and I'm leaving the team because I'm in a bad place mentally. And I don't know how to handle things, and so there's a resentful period that probably went on at that point for me. And then I probably didn't have any idea how much I appreciated what he did for me until I got fired at Rutgers as an assistant coach in my 4th year there. And I had young family, young kids, young wife, a young marriage, and we didn't have much money, and I just got fired. And then all that my dad did for me as a kid, toughening me up, it kicked in when adversity hit at different times.
Well, what do you say? Because there's somebody watching right now that is going through a tough period and it feels like the pressure continues to mount. I believe a movie should be made after you and what you've been able to accomplish from your darkest moments to your shining moments. What do you say to the person that's going through right now as you sit on the other side of that?
Yeah, the best things you could do. I mean, nowadays is different than when I was going through it in the early to mid '90s. I mean, there's so much help you can get in terms of things you could do to feel better. There wasn't much science behind sleep and nutrition and mindfulness, meditation practice, and journaling, and listening to podcasts and inspirational story. I mean, there's so much therapy. The power of a great therapist could change your whole mental outlook on life. So there's all the exercise and cold to heat, massage therapy, sensory deprivation. I mean, there's so much you could do to improve your mental and emotional well-being. So that's helped a lot. I think being and having great relationships, like having a great marriage with a woman I love, and staying so connected to my family, like having like a strong family foundation has helped me navigate a lot of the storms. And then I feel like what I do for a living, although I never imagined I'd be making money like this, man. I never thought that your life would end up kind of looking like this, but I have a higher sense of purpose with what I know my true impact is with the players and with the people that touch the program. I know I'm impacting a lot of lives here, so that sense of purpose that I wake up with every day, it keeps me grounded and it makes me grateful.
Somebody you give a lot of credit to is Sister Catherine Waters, who impacted you in a big way. Can you just elaborate on her?
Yeah, Sister Catherine. So I met her when I was probably in my most damaged state, and I was in a super bad way. And um, I went to see a psychiatrist, and they were, they wanted to prescribe medication for me. They diagnosed me, with depression, and but my mother went with me to the appointment, and neither one of us felt like that was the solution that we wanted to take. And so we just looked for, and I didn't have a great connection with my with that particular individual. So I think therapists are something that it's almost like girlfriends or whatever that becomes a lot. Like friends. Like there's some relationships that'll be better for you, and you want to find somebody that you connect with, that you're going to open up with, and really talk about the stuff that's really below the surface level crap. So when I sat down with Sister Catherine, I mean, we just had a great vibe, and I felt like she was the type of person I could really talk to about the things I was struggling with, the comparison game, the shame I felt as being a failed career with the basketball playing. I also was doing a really bad job as a student. I had lost my spiritual faith in God, and I just didn't have like good, solid friendships. I was just drinking a lot, partying a lot. So she got me to just organize my life and to strive in more areas to have better balance, even though it's never going to be totally balanced. and then just opened up about a lot of the things. Like I wasn't talking to people about feeling like a failure, or I didn't have many people back in Jersey City that I felt would understand me being vulnerable about my struggles. Most people in Jersey City were just tough sons of, tough sons of guns, man, that like, there were a lot of men that you could turn to and say like, yo, I'm struggling, man. I'm failing. Like what do I do? Because men didn't talk to each other like that back then. So I found a woman, and then I found a woman, and it was a nun, and that made me more comfortable in my skin. I kind of felt stronger because it was out in the open and it wasn't some secret, and I was just able to move forward and get stronger. She started prescribing books. I didn't know that there were actually books beyond like the history book. You know what I mean? Like the teacher made you read. So now you develop a love of reading, and that's helped me form a different mindset.
Man, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Coach. What would you say? What would you say is your greatest strength as a coach?
I would say two things: the pouring into piece that you adopt from Bob Senior, where it's like everything that I do not give to my family, I'm pouring into the program. So I never stop thinking about UConn basketball, the players, and how we're making progress together. And I think that the ups and downs in my career, obviously the struggling as a player, but then the ability to kind of return to the court, finish my career with honor. I scored 1,000 points in the old Big East back when that thing was a monster. So my relatability to the roster, I've been the best player on teams, and I've been a really struggling player on teams. So I feel like I could really, really coach the whole team because I could relate to everyone on the team.
Hey, you got a similar story as mine also. I'd finish a game playing for the Knicks or the Pacers or whoever, go to the family room. My mom and dad would be sitting there. They'd be like, you balled. You was incredible. How'd you see that guy on the break? And then Blue's mom would be like, I don't know what they talking about. You were terrible. I thought you played bad. Your wife is brutally honest to you. How refreshing is that? And how tough is it sometimes to take?
No, it's bad. I mean, she didn't know anything about leadership or sport. But her dad, though, was like way ahead of his time. Like I remember, he died, tragically very early on in our marriage, and it really was jarring for her family. But he was like into this, like when Tony Robbins was just kind of like when self-help was just beginning and personal development was just starting. It was way TED Talk, like way before that. He was kind of in that space, and I would like sneak around in their basement, and he had all the cassette tapes of Tony Robbins, like young Tony. So like I had this like weird connection with my wife Andrea's father, and then but she don't know anything. Her highest level of sports was like senior year. She got like JV softball her senior year. She doesn't know anything. So she's like weird. So if we lose a game, she's really bad with me. She tells me I'm a failure, and then I got to do better. And then if we're doing well, she's like a hype man. She's like, you're the king of this, like no one can beat you. No one's ever gonna beat you, So it's like she's doing it opposite, and she doesn't know anything about it. But which is better for me. If I had they show her during the games, and it's like the camera will pan to her. We're down one or up one with like 15 seconds to go, side out, and she's like looking around like. Oh, she doesn't understand what's at stake until we either win or lose. Like she's like, but she's tough. I mean, she's like half Greek, half Italian, Jersey girl. So like if I come home like carrying over any of the intensity from practice, like Mitt, she shuts it down right at the garage door. She won't let me in the house, so she'll tell me to go back outside, start over. But I need that. That's good for me.
Is it true she called you a glorified gym teacher?
Yeah, man. That's like
wow. That's
crazy.
What's going on, man?
Oh, I know. I say it's like she still doesn't even understand the complexity, Mark, of it. But she's so she thinks everything that's happened out there is random. Her thing is like, it's a game. Someone's going to win. Someone's going to lose. What's the big deal? What? Life or death.
That is classic.
No oxygen when you lose, man. It's like when Mark, it's like I would watch my dad. My dad, he would handle losing, and it didn't happen often to him in high school. He probably lost 100 times and probably won 1,300, maybe lost 100. I don't know what it ended up, but what he mirrored for me and Bob was like he'd lose a game and he couldn't get out of bed the next day. So much of his identity and personal, how he felt about himself was connected to his team and what the team looked like. It was so personal to him when it didn't function well. And that's how, it's when me and Bob lose, it's jarring. A lot of civilians, they don't understand that.
I saw what you once said, you struggle with failure, you struggle with losing.
Yeah. You can't tell when I'm going try to fight a fan after
I didn't want to bring that up.
Yeah, that's not somebody that's handling. And sometimes after a win, too. So, I don't. It's just it's environment. It's environment. I mean, my dad was a ruthless competitor. I think you grow up in places like New York or New Jersey, and you grow up in a culture where in the summer to get runs, you gotta keep winning to keep the court, or else you can go on the side and not. You grow up in that culture where every game felt so monumental and so important. And I'm kind of in that generation of like coaches and players that every game just feels so massive and so important. And where you have a responsibility to go out there and win it. And then sometimes I think, you have honorable performances and you're going to lose sometimes, and you can live with the results and bounce back from it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Well, Coach, how much has the college game changed with the introduction of NIL and players starting to get paid now?
Yeah, I think it's an awesome thing for the players. I mean, I think it's just awesome. They deserve it. Their daily schedule and the things that they do. These guys will today start their day with a 7 a.m. team breakfast that's mandatory. And when practice and weights and film and classes and study hall and extra shooting and everything is done, they'll get back to their room at, 8:30, 9:30. And they're doing that 6 days a week, easy, and this time of year. And, and so the commitment, these guys are working, man. And obviously, March Madness and NCAA basketball produces, obviously a lot of revenue, and these guys deserve to share in it. It's important for them to learn how to start taking care of their money and manage it and invest it and do all those smart things. The one fear that you have with it, I'll say two things. I coach them harder because of NIL. The more resources that get poured into you, the more that the people that are pouring those resources deserve from you. I think it's simple. And these guys have tremendous resources that get poured into them for them to become champions or get to the NBA. Do those things together. Like we have to. The resources, it makes it that's the mission, and we got to accomplish it. I worry about the players though. Like there's a sense, I think you could see a little bit. Sometimes it's good to be broke. I think sometimes that is a feeling that is healthy to not have, and to that feeling of desperation and urgency when you don't have a lot. Now maybe you get to 20 years old and your life is pretty sweet. You don't want to get seduced into it can get easy into like if they got it real good that you don't got to keep striving and pushing because you don't want this to be the best you ever have it. That would be, I think, haunting for these guys.
Well, I give you credit because it is refreshing to hear a coach on your level, absolute elite coach, coaching one of the greatest programs of all time, acknowledge that the kids deserve to be get money. I get frustrated when I hear former players or current coaches or former coaches saying they don't. It is millions and millions and billions of dollars being made. They absolutely deserve to be paid.
Definitely. And it's part of, I'd like it to be the fifth thing we talk about. If it's the first thing a recruit wants to talk about, then they're not a UConn player. And not everyone's meant to play here. But if it's like, Coach, I love your culture. I love the way, I want to win championships. I want you to develop me for the NBA, and I'm willing to let you coach me hard. And I got good people around me. And then the fifth thing is like, the NIL is going to be straight, right? All right. That's, I think, the ones that work out great for us. It's like the NIL is in place too, right, Coach? And it is in place too, but we just don't want it to be what drives the decision.
Coach, real quick, Pops. I gotta blow the whistle on somebody. You keep talking about your championships. Amazing job, by the way. But as someone that's been taking credit a little bit at the house for the championships, he keeps telling me 2 years ago he came and spoke to the team, and he's insinuating that ever since he came there, it's been something in the air. I don't know. Please just talk about it a little bit so we can just get this out of the way. He's been trying to throw it around too much.
Yeah, I know. And listen, I'd throw your Pops under the bus in a second here, because I'm authentic. I'm authentic. So I'm going to tell you a couple things about your dad that were critical for us in that, and how we utilize that, because it's not a photo op for us, and it's not something I could just tell parents or recruits we do just so I could look like we're trying to help our guys. Like, we draw from it the whole year, because we slice up parts from the different people that we'll bring in to be a part of that team and our program moving forward. So, going into certain moments, like, your Pops was a showman and had this plan, and like, would just try all types of spins, throwing the ball back in big spots. So we were coming off of 2 years in a row where we went out in the first round of the NCAA tournament, and we kind of turtled up a little bit. And so we would pull clips from your dad in that hour talk to the team, just, the lights are on type of, like, you better, you go out and you go make it happen. So we spliced that the night before certain games. We probably used it 10 or 12 times going into the national championship game, or going into, the Big East, the Big East quarters or whatever. So we'll splice that in and we're using it. Your dad also said, for our guards, and like, I never really heard a lot of people talk about this. He's like, every time you catch the ball, every guard, like you taking that picture of the court, and that complicated picture of the court that all guards take before they catch the ball, like, or right on the catch, like they take that photo, and now they start playing, and they know they got, whether it's a shooter, a cutter, a rim protector, like, who's everywhere as you catch it. And your dad, like, we went to that with the guards nonstop, like, and we're coaching our guards, I think, in a little bit different way, because of that. And I've never heard a guard say it, like, verbally say it. I think it's something that a lot of guards think about, but not coach and teach. So the Pops helped for real, not like.
Let's make sure we clip that and use that as a highlight of the interview.
Oh, and but a lot of it too was just the attitude and because we were not, at that point, we were not champions yet. We actually were going into that year with a lot of pressure on us. There were a lot of questions about me as a coach, having been, you're not very popular around here when you get bounced in the first round of the tournament 2 years in a row. Like, it's not like now. So I promise you that. And your dad is like, there was a reason why, what your dad did as a player, how he turned, Golden State around, and just the success your father. Like, I wanted, like, somebody with your dad's level of success around my guys. Like, as a player, he's a killer. As a head coach, he's a killer. On TV, he's a killer. We were coming up small. I wanted somebody with some high level person coming in. So.
Well,
Man,
it
that's
was
rough.
truly an honor and a privilege, especially for a St. John's guy to come to UConn and speak. I mean, you could tell it took me time to agree, but it was a privilege, and I get, you know, I watch you guys play, and I'm a fan. I'm an absolute fan of everything you do, how you go about it. Now let's deal with the elephant in the room. I got to ask you. I watched Coach Harbaugh with the Chargers, and I watched him at Michigan. And he ends practice or ends a huddle with his team, and every time he says, "Who's got it better than us?" And the team yells, "Nobody." Absolutely, I disagree with him because the elephant in the room. You turned down the Lakers job. Coach Dan Hurley has it better than anybody else in the world. You turned down the Lakers job to stay at UConn. Talk to me about that. How did you make that decision, and how did you decide to stay at UConn?
Yeah, it was only hard for me because I liked Rob Pelinka a lot. I liked obviously Jeannie Buss and the people there. Like I was able to connect with them and get excited about that opportunity. Once you got past like the brand and being maybe the greatest sports brand in the world, once you got past that, you really like the people. But I would say just between like a Jim Harbaugh, what he decided and what I decided, I think there's less adjustments you have to make being a college football coach to an NFL head coach in terms of your ability to get in there. I think the coaches from college to the NFL. I think even if I think you still like coach offensive linemen like pretty hard, even if they're making 18 million a year. I think it's more transferable from college head football coach to the NFL relative to like the culture of coaches in football and the way it is. I think how different it is from college to the NBA that way. And I felt for me, just at this stage of the way that I like to coach the game at 51 years old is, I think it's most effective in college. Um, I like the fact that I get to pick my own players and I have full control over whether I could be successful or not here. And I don't think that you have quite that control in the NBA.
Being that there's so much legendary basketball just in your blood, how involved was your family with that decision?
I go under when I'm making decisions. Like I talked to Bob a couple times. Obviously, I talked to my dad. I really couldn't talk to my mother. She couldn't relate. My mother would tell me whether you know, it's just there's not that many people that can that you could go to for advice in situations like that. I talked to some NBA people, and I obviously Kamani Young, who you guys know, who's incredible. One of the best coaches, period, in college.
Mhm.
Head coach, or let's say whatever, associate head, whatever it is. I talked to a small group of people, and then really in the end, I think I just the person that knows me the best in the world is my wife, and she knows me the best. She knows us the best, where we could thrive and do our best. And in the end, it was me, my wife, and my two sons that really decided what to do.
A couple more questions. We appreciate your time. Talk about how special it is to work with your sons, to coach them and to work with them.
Man, I tell you, to have them so close to it, both sons, and my oldest son is like, he's probably more nervous than I am on game day. Like he, even though he wasn't a basketball player, it's the family business. And, and then that idiot chose politics to go into. Like he picked something worse than tougher than this, right? I mean, but then to have Andrew with me and just the perspective you gain from that, and then just what he was able to do to take the edge off, come over in a high leverage moment with a lot of pressure, and come up to me and say, we got this, you old, you old, you old, you old bozo. You know what I mean? Like just somebody to kind of come over and you could either it's going to show you love, or you're going to share a light moment, or you just have a brutal loss and you get a hug, and you're emotional and you're crying, and you're hugging your son after a brutal loss, but then you also then go celebrating natties and Big East championship. You're on the roller coaster ride together, and you got to come back from tough moments together. You experience the highest of highs together. It's and to do that with not just your son, but like to experience championship level success with the people around you. Those are different relationships. Like you get together forever when you're a part of teams like that. Teams that don't do great don't keep getting together. you know.
How about not being together? Mentioning that, and you gave unbelievable credit to Kamiani Young, who we know extremely well. How is he not a head coach, and how is your staff still intact?
Yeah, listen, I think it's a couple things. I think number one, I make sure that they're compensated amongst the best coaches in the country. Luke and Kamani are two of the best. I mean, those guys are ready for high major head coaching jobs and should be on every short list. Who wouldn't want their program to look like ours right now if you're an AD? The problem is for them, they're priced out of some of those mid-major jobs potentially, and then I think some of those even like mid-major plus type of jobs are tough now with NIL. Like NIL has hurt some of those jobs and made them less desirable. And I think in those guys' minds, they're waiting for a Big East job. They're waiting for an ACC job. They were, in some ways maybe hoping I would take the Lakers job, and that they would then be the head coach at UConn. So I think, they're in an interesting spot, and but we're doing it, I think, at such a high level right now that I don't think they're dying to get out of here, but they're obviously their clock is ticking.
This just in, your swag is on 1,000. I just want to let you know that. But you have absolutely earned it because you've hit it out the park with the job you've done.
Yeah, I mean, my life in basketball has not been like this. My life in basketball has been, really good, but it didn't measure up. Like really, really good, even some great moments, but not necessarily elite or championship level. I mean, so there was, as a player and building my career as a coach, there was a lot of struggle. There was a lot of failure. There was a lot of like, I mean, I didn't start peaking in the sport until like my mid 40s to late 40s. I mean, I didn't start really feeling successful. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, right now I feel successful. I have a lot of confidence, but I promise you, I'm coaching my players harder. Our commitment is even greater for producing continued results like this. I mean, we're if anything, we've become more maniacal, more pathological in our pursuit of doing it again and again and again. And right now, we're pushing the envelope to see if that's possible. We believe it is. We're going for it.
I got a bone to pick with you because you can't be where we're from and be a Kansas City Royal fan or a
Oh,
George Brett fan. How is that possible? I mean, I love George Brett, but he's not my guy.
yeah. I mean, my dad and Bob. I mean, they were Celtic fans, so I went Knicks. And it started with Bernard King, and then your great teams when Riles came in there, and that, I mean, that was awesome time to be a Knick fan. And then, but they went one way, I went that way, and then they were Yankees, and I was like middle, younger brother, always a little bit against the grain, with my whole deal, and I went Royals because I saw the Pine Tar game, and I'm an emotional guy, and I'm fiery, and when he hit that home run off Goose and then came flying out of the dugout, man, I was like, this is the perfect team for me. And then they're like against the Yankees. So I was like, and then they're Cowboys. And I was like, all right, I'm lefty, Boomer's lefty. I kind of like Texas. It's like, but I'm also a fan. That's why I think I don't get too rattled. I got crazy fans here at UConn. When we lose, they lose it. And I don't get too bothered by it because like, I love my sports teams too, and when they lose, I get mad. I don't tweet crazy stuff, but sometimes I'm like really mad at the coach. You know what I mean? I'll go on Twitter and say, this guy's a bum. Like that. That's bizarre.
Coach, do you have any favorite players at the NBA level?
Just outside of our echo chamber, the guys who were put in recently. I mean, I love what our guys are about to do. I think the NBA is about to start getting filled up with UConn guys playing real well again. I think we're doing it for a long time. Starting with Chris Smith and Cliff Robinson actually before him, and then Chris Smith and and Danielle Marshall and Ray and it just Karamba, and it just I think we're about to get to that point again where the league is littered with UConn players. I liked Ant-Man. I liked Ant-Man's approach this year. Like I loved how kind of he didn't care about. He just seemed like he wasn't in it to make friends with anybody. He was just trying to like win and be a killer in the playoffs. And I love players that exude, that they're not like they're all about winning. Anything beyond advancing in the playoffs or winning a championship. I love players that say anything beneath that is a failure for me. I love hearing athletes say anything beyond winning it all is a failure for me. I think that's refreshing. I think that's what makes sports great. I think that's what fans and deserve from their hero players.
Well, my daughter works for the Portland Trailblazers 5 years now, and she raves about the young man that you developed in Donovan and how special he is on and off the court, how he conducts himself.
Donovan is, Donovan, I think, the teams that passed on him, I think will end up regretting it. I mean, he didn't fall too far. He went 7, and he went to an organization that, sometimes you watch, Mark, it's like the way that they evaluated him and the homework that, Mike Schmidt did with their process of how many times they saw him his freshman year. And then they came to very intimate practices when we played Gonzaga in Seattle. They basically lived with us for like 2 days. And like they really studied the human being and are going to put him in an incredible position to succeed in that organization and see what the Spurs, what they'll do with Steph Castle. And you don't even realize it as a head college coach that you're so much better off if certain organizations draft your players than others, based on the level of professionalism and player development that player is now going to be in, the culture and the quality, and how that's going to impact where that player's career goes from there. And I've seen that now, from a good standpoint and from a negative standpoint here. But Donovan, Donovan is just scratching the surface. I mean, he was not a great 3-point shooter here. So I know Donovan is he's like a little salty that I didn't let him shoot as many threes. But you can't argue with, his game, it's like Joker, I think. Like Joker, when he was 20, wasn't doing what he was doing when he was 25. And I think the thing with Donovan is going to be, he's going to be doing things 2 or 3 years from now that he's not doing right now that are going to blow people's minds. And then they're going to go back to his UConn film and say, why didn't Hurley let him do it? They should have went 40-0.
Okay, last question for me.
Yeah.
During my research, I got to get to the bottom of it. I heard one answer and I heard another. Your wife claims she did your paper to finish an assignment. You said she didn't. Can I get to the bottom of it once and for all?
Yeah, so she typed it. I did it. We had a typing class at St. Anthony, I think, and I don't know, I don't know which sister taught that class, which nun taught that class, but I didn't lock in it. So I couldn't type much. So all I did, I just said, listen, I wrote it. It was like a 10-page paper, and I asked her to type it. But, we all have these biases, and we're all conditioned to change the way we remember things. And that's what she's doing.
My guy. Certainly appreciate you taking the time, man. Continued blessings. Appreciate your impact and your witness and what you stand for as a coach and as a man. Congratulations on all the success Thank you for joining us on the Mark Jackson Show. Love and appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Coach.
This was fun, man. I appreciate it.
Shout out to our sponsors, Underdog. Go ahead and click the link in the description, and they are matching a first-time deposit of up to $1,000. Use the promo code MARK. Oh, yeah, you'll also get a special pick. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate y'all.
Remember, last week the basketball world and the world in general lost a giant, the great Dikembe Mutombo. I watched with tears in my eyes as the service was played over the internet, as his wife, kids, family, friends, former presidents, teammates, coaches, and countrymen testified on the legend of Dikembe Mutombo, how incredible his impact was during his lifetime. It made me think, what a way to celebrate a life. Don't you have folks lying at your service? Make sure they're telling the truth and testifying on how legit your impact has been and will continue to be. Secure your legacy now. Make a difference. Blessings.